I'm Mal, and this is Demigod Debut, a podcast that is sometimes about my friend Julie reading the Percy Jackson books for the first time, and other times, like now, is me hanging out with other friends and talking about the show. So I am joined once again by Bella.
Hello.
And Sydney is also back again. So 2 repeat guests. And also, Sydney, you just waved.
I did just wave. I didn't know if we were doing a reintroduction, but I was so excited to be here tonight.
So since we've already heard about both your Demigod debuts, I was like, what's a question I can ask? So my question for both of you is, what is your favorite Percy Jackson universe book?
Ooh. Okay, Mal, you and I have had discussions about this one because definitively is the best. And I know you have a different opinion on this, but I have to say, hands down, Titan's Curse.
Wrong. It's just wrong. I'm sorry.
Okay, but listen, is the only reason you rank Battle of the Labyrinth over Titan's Curse because of the kiss?
No. It is because it is an Annabeth book. And the books that are Annabeth books, I like more. Like, I feel like it's she finally gets her quest. Like, she gets to do her thing. And I love that for her. And obviously she's like not in Titan's Curse at all, so it cannot rank that highly for me because like where's my girl, you know?
Okay, but listen, Titan's Curse is not an Annabeth book. Like, she's kind of the driving force behind the action in that story. Plus, you have Artemis and the Hunters, which I think is just a bonus in the story. Thank you, Bella.
And like you get Thalia like showing Percy up a bit and being like, hey, yeah, you're not the top bitch. And Percy kind of feels for the first time like, I'm being humbled. And he like doesn't know what to do. And it's kind of incredible. Because like, I love Percy. I'll defend Percy to the end of time. But everyone, and I mean everyone, has to be humbled at some point in their lives. Like, that's what siblings are for. And Percy didn't have any siblings to hold up that end of the deal.
That's true. Had this not happened to him, Percy would have been an only child loser boy, and that would have been real bad for everybody involved.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Fair. It's fair. Doesn't change my opinion though. Bella, what's your favorite book?
This might be basic and I don't really care. The Last Olympian. I have read that book most out of every book in the like Riordan universe, I think. I love that book so much. And I think it just like wraps up the first 5 books so well. And like, I'm such a Percabeth person. And so like them like finally having their moment at the end, it's great.
Yeah, The Last Olympian is also up there for me. Perhaps I should have given my little spoiler warning before that question. I don't know that we really spoiled anything, but I do know that I am planning to spoil the ending of The Last Olympian, like, out the gate when we start talking about the beginning of episode 5. So, you know, nothing is safe. If you're not looking for spoilers, don't listen to this episode of this podcast, because who knows what's about to come out of my mouth. So episodes 5 and 6 this time. Did I say that? I can't remember if I said that. I don't think I said that.
No, I don't think we were recording.
Yes. All right. So episodes 5 and 6 for this episode. Before I go off about the fates, does anyone else have any like opening thoughts on episode 5?
Where was the full body shot of the hug, Richard? Where was it? Thank you. That's all. Mal, you can go off about the fates. That's like the very beginning of the episode minus the fates. And I just was like, it's so... Anyways.
You know, I think if we put enough pressure on Rick, we could get him to release some kind of Rick's extended edition similar to the Snyder cut. And then we would get all the deleted scenes and all the bloopers. And it would be hours and hours.
Well, because I'm still mad about the Council of the Cloven Elder scene where like everyone was apparently just bleeding at Grover. Like that's funny. I need it. I want it.
Ooh, yeah, that's a missed opportunity. I mean, speaking of Grover, I, for one, before you go in about the fates, I'm so happy that this is like a Grover heavy episode because I think it did such a good job of showing off his character. And dare I even say in a better way than the book really ever did.
Oh,
in
agree.
the series.
I also feel like this is kind of our last Grover heavy episode in this season because I don't know, in like 6 he's a little more comic relief, and then this is the last one where I really walked away being like, Grover, love.
Yeah, and I do feel like episode 5 kind of begins this turning point for the final 3 episodes, because beyond 5, the show becomes less of an ensemble show and more of um Percy's solo act, really. And Grover and Annabeth turn more into these side characters, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that,
Absolutely.
because at the end of the day, Percy is the main character of Percy Jackson. But um I do think it kind of mirrors this journey, or exemplifies this journey of him really stepping into that role as a hero. So
Yeah.
I kind of like how they set that up.
Well, and I also think this quest, like the Lightning Thief quest specifically, is kind of Percy's hero's journey, and so this is also like the only time that it's his quest. Because the rest of the books, like he's just tagging along on someone else's quest, whether or not he's like actually supposed to be there. But this, like it makes sense for them to focus more on Percy here.
It's funny that you bring up this story being a hero's journey, because it absolutely is. I used to tutor an 8th grade boy, and he's no longer in 8th grade now. But over the summer, I devised this Percy Jackson hero's journey book project that I was so excited about, but he just thought it was fine.
Um, can I do that project?
Oh, I will totally send it to you. I think you'd eat it up.
I probably would, and I have 2 weeks off of work right now, so I'm like, I got time.
Do you need a spring break reading project?
Yes, please, spring break reading project.
All right, I'll email it to you. Expect it in your inbox.
Oh, please. Okay, so the fates. I had to ask if you wanted to get a word in, because I feel like I could talk for this entire episode about this change, and I think you both know this because you have both heard me talk about it. But having the fates appear to Annabeth instead of Percy is so juicy and so iconic, and I love it. The fates were not something that I necessarily missed in episode 1. Like I didn't even really notice that it hadn't happened, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But then they like released a video at one point that like had showed a picture of the fates. So it was like we knew they were coming, and so it was like, when is it gonna happen? So then I was like, oh, I think it's gonna happen maybe in like episode 3 when they start the quest, and like and then it like didn't happen then, and it didn't happen in episode 4, and I was like, oh, it's gonna happen now that like he sacrificed himself for her, and there it was. And so I really read it as like, as Annabeth's loyalties start to change from Luke to Percy, that like kind of sets their relationship and like sets things in motion in a way that like eventually does lead to, spoiler, Luke's death. Here's my hot take. We talked a little bit, Sydney, the last time you were on here, when we talked about the prophecy and the lightning thief, and how Percy talks about the thing that he fails to save being his mom, and how it's like, no, he's
Mm-hmm.
wrong about that, because the thing he fails to save is actually Luke, and he just like never, tells the audience that. But I also think he's maybe a little bit wrong in his at the end saying that the choice that, like, the single choice that he makes to end his days is giving Luke the knife. Because, and maybe again, we've already said that I am like an Annabeth Chase girly, like I will defend her until my dying day, but I feel like this great prophecy is a trio event, and Annabeth is just as tied to it as everyone else. And I think that the choice is, not to make this sound too much like a like typical teenage like love triangle, but I think the choice ultimately is her kind of choosing Percy over Luke, and like realizing that she has to let Luke go. And it's like the way that she like steps in and is like, family, Luke, you promised. And it's like, I understand, like, Percy, you have to give him the knife. Like, she's kind of orchestrating all these little things, and I think like it does ultimately come down to her like making the choice to step in there. Because in Battle of the Labyrinth, my favorite book, Pan does tell her like she'll play a great role even though it might not be the one that she imagined. And like I think this is that role. Like, it's the way that both of these boys care so much about her, and like the way that she manages to get through to Luke, but then Percy also trusts her enough to, like, when she says give him the knife, like he trusts her enough to do it because he's like, oh, Annabeth is right. you know you know I think prophecies, especially like this one, are not necessarily set in stone. Like, there are multiple ways that they can come to pass. And I think you kind of can see in the end there 2 different ways that it could shake out. Like, you've got 2 people that could be the hero. You've got Luke and you've got Percy. And then you also have like 2 cursed blades that could eventually like reap the hero's soul or whatever. Like you have Annabeth's knife and you also have Kronos' scythe. And so it's like Annabeth makes the choice there and like turns Luke into the hero that's gonna die. Looking at it from like that lens, I think the fates appearing to Annabeth makes a lot of sense to me. Thoughts?
That was really nicely put. Yeah, I think it's so interesting, especially when you think about what fate truly means within the context of the series, and how much is predestined versus how much boils down to free will. So I have to agree with you. I think there is some room for free will, but ultimately, the things there are things that have been set in motion and are set in motion that they can't escape from. And so I think it was either going to be Percy or Luke. One of them was going to be on the line. One of them was going to be the downfall of Olympus. One of them was going to be the triumph of Olympus. So I mean, and we've already established, we've talked about this previously, they are definitively character foils to one another. But ultimately, it is so dependent on Annabeth's role in both of their lives. And so essentially, I think in this episode, like she had been at this forked road, but then begins to walk down Percy's path more than Luke's. Because had she perhaps not had this experience, I think she is so blinded by her affection, and I don't mean that necessarily in a romantic way, it could be in a platonic way, and who she has idolized him to be, that she could have ended up being his right hand man. And I think if she had been on his side, everything would have gone slightly differently, because I think she would have been all in on this war on Olympus.
And because Annabeth Chase can do everything because she's an icon legend star? Yeah.
I mean, pretty much. She had the strategy that Luke really did not have. But ultimately, I think what makes her a hero is that she always chooses the path of righteousness. So it's silly to think in these hypotheticals, because ultimately she is such a righteous character. She would have chosen what was right in the end. But I'm going to bring it back to Star Wars again. You have Percy who's walking the light side, and then Luke who's walking the dark side. I again, one last time, I do think that Luke Castellan is such an Anakin Skywalker figure, but instead of Luke, not Luke Castellan, Luke Skywalker being the one to turn Vader back into the light, it's Annabeth at the very end, at the precipice. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with all words spoken. I think Annabeth connects them all, and like she ties these two boys to each other.
But this also like makes me think a lot about where the fates appear in the book, because I can't reach a conclusion as to like why like why the cutting of the string happens when it does. Like I can't come to a understanding of that like is satisfying to me. The only thing I can think is like we did it then because it's like ominous, and but like what is it about that moment on their way back from Yancey to New York? Like what is it about then that like makes Luke eventually gonna die, you know? Like why does it happen when it does? And so I really like this change. I feel like it gives it a little bit more meaning. Like there's more meaning to seeing the fates cut this string. But also it's very interesting to me that in the book Percy just, I'm like, I know he doesn't know what's going on yet, but he sees the fates cut the string and Grover's like, that means someone's gonna die. And then Percy just like doesn't think about it again until it happens. Like he what? Like if it was me and I saw this happen and somebody was like, oh, that means someone's gonna die. Anytime anything happened, I would have been like, is that what the fates, like I would have been like, oh, my mom just got captured by the Minotaur, like that must have been what the fates were doing. Oh, Bianca just died, that must have been what the fates were doing. Oh, Zoe died, that must have been what the fates were doing. Like every single time I would have been like, is this what the fates were like prophesizing or whatever? The fact that he doesn't think about it constantly is so confusing to me.
Hot take, I think he doesn't think about it because Rick didn't think about it.
Because in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, I feel like maybe it's just Rick trying to foreshadow the whole series of like, it's kind of the first time Percy leaves like what used to be a safe place and is like officially like becoming a danger in the world, and like kind of becoming what it is to like be a demigod. And so I feel like that as like an intro to of like the overarching plot of the whole series, Rick was like, snip snip bitch, buckle up. But like that's really all I can.
Yeah, I mean it's probably just where it is for the drama, but I do think that this change that they made makes it more juicy.
I think it adds more weight to it, you
Yeah.
know? Like it makes people like actually like it has more weight to it that like someone other than Percy saw it and is like, "Hey, you need to be worried about this because I'm worried about this." Yeah.
Well, and because that's possible now that we're not living in Percy's head, so it's a little more possible to
Yeah.
have the fates appear to someone else, which is cool and fun. And it's gives us more time to emphasize like Annabeth's role and everything, which speaking of Annabeth, the other thing I kind of wonder about is like why was she so insistent that Percy was alive? Like when she's like, "No, he's alive." And Grover kind of goes, "Annabeth." She's like, "No, he is." Like you just saw a string cut. Like my gut reaction would have been like, "Oh, Percy's dead." Like the string that just got cut, it was Percy falling off the arch. So like the like soulmateism, I guess, is already so real between them that she just like knows that he's not dead.
No, I was literally like in the back of my head, I was like, the besties are bestying. Like, she is like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. He is not dead because we just kind of became friends. So he's not dead because I'm not dead. So none of us are dead. Like, she's just like in 12-year-old denial.
He's not dead because I'm absolutely not going to let another kid of the big three sacrifice themselves for me. Absolutely not. He's not dead.
Yeah, sweet bestie. She's like, I have too much trauma for this. He's not dead.
I think she just believes so hard in him that she was just going to will him back to life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
She's like, "No, I refuse. He's alive."
But also, she like leads Grover to the river immediately.
Yeah.
Like she's like marching right to the river. So did they see the water come grab him?
I feel like they would have had to like I feel like you wouldn't miss because okay, it would also depend how long he was up there before he fell.
That's what I was thinking about too, and like how fast they got down. Because like,
Yeah, if they were still in the stairwell, they wouldn't have seen it. But like, if they saw him fall and like the water grab him, I could see why it would make sense for her to be like, "Oh, he's not
yeah.
dead because he's in the water."
But like if Miss Chase did not see him
But
fall and she just marched right up to that river and was like, he's alive, girl boss. Absolutely.
Delulu is the Salulu. Like, you don't want to face the fact that another one of your friends could be dead. Like,
Yeah, absolutely not. Not in this household.
yeah.
No.
You already brought up the hug. Fun. Love that they're hugging. Love that this is a thing that friends do.
They're so sweet.
Also, I love that they just realize that they can't get on public transport and they just start walking down the street. Like there's just
Me too. No, because the way
such a 12-year-old solution.
Such a 12-year-old solution.
they're like, we'll make it.
I'm like, you cannot walk from St. Louis to LA.
Not in the time they have.
But I mean, let's also face it. These three individuals, as lovely as they are, did not feel any sort of pressure from any sort of deadline. And I will say that is one key difference between the book and the show, is that in the book, it really did feel like they had respect for the deadline, that they were hustling. But
Well, yeah, Percy mentions it like multiple times every
yes,
chapter. He's like,
yes,
"We have 11 days till the deadline. We have 10 days till the deadline. We have this much time till the deadline. We have, yeah,
like there's a
Yeah.
countdown going off in his head. Absolutely. But I mean, spoiler alert for the show. They don't care to the point that they march right up to the deadline and
yeah,
then go beyond it.
yeah." And I feel like not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I feel like that's why them missing the deadline didn't hit for me. I was like, why make them miss the deadline if we didn't really seem to care about the deadline at all, you know? And I do have some thoughts on the deadline that we can get to when we get to it. But yeah, yeah, the not emphasis on the deadline is
Yeah.
definitely interesting.
It took some of the stakes away, you know?
Yeah, it did lower the stakes.
Like it just made it a bit like obviously there were still stakes. Like obviously like his mom, we don't know what's happening. Lightning bolt, we don't know what's happening. Like
Yeah.
Clary stole the bolt. What? I don't know. I just liked when there was stakes and I loved it when they made the deadline. I understand why they changed it, but I do have trouble being okay with the changes.
Yeah, I also think that there's in the book there's a lot more emphasis on like things that are happening that like indicate that Zeus is mad. Like there's all the weather stuff that's going on. There's like these things that they see as they're going, that they're like, oh, okay, like this is happening, like we have to stop this, you know? And there's like not a whole lot of that.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy the Percy finally being like, there's more to this quest than we thought, and Annabeth and Grover like exchanging their little glance, like, oh baby. Anytime that we can make Annabeth and Grover like better friends, I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah. And every time Percy is just like a dingbat, I'm like, yeah, that's why Annabeth was in charge immediately. Immediately.
He's smart, but he's a little dingy.
Yeah. It's like that one song. I'm smart, but I'm stupid.
Yeah, exactly. That's Percy.
That's him. In a nutshell.
Then the other important thing that we have to mention, on their like walking conversation, once they like hear the bike rolling up and they like get behind the little divider things, I don't know, when they're back there and Percy's like,
oh yeah
oh, it doesn't have to be a thing, you know, that you hugged me.
Oh yeah.
Like Percy, just because you can't stop thinking about this does not mean that that's what she's thinking about. Does not mean that that's why she's being weird. But then also the way he's like, you know, that's what friends do, at least I think. Like the fact that neither of these babies have ever really had a friend before that is their own age. Like,
yeah.
I've been thinking about that a lot, like just how sad
It's
Percy's
so
life
sad.
was before he got to camp. The only friend he'd ever had before was Grover, and like he really barely had he had Grover his 6th grade year, but he'd been in school for like 6 years before that and just like had no one. Like that's hard, dude.
He had his mommy. What are you
Right.
talking about? I'm just kidding. And you know, I think the show did a really good job of emphasizing just how alone Percy felt in the world and why it was so important for him to like come to this place where like he felt acknowledged and seen, like through these flashbacks to Percy's childhood, because it's truly just him and Sally, and like they're just this duo, and you know, Sally's struggling and doing the best she can, but Percy just doesn't really understand why he feels so different and why he like just feels so much all the time.
Yeah.
It was also just hard to watch. It's so sad.
Yeah. And I also think Annabeth is lonely in a different way. Like she's always been surrounded by this world, but I also think Annabeth has spent so much time like trying to prove herself, trying to make herself seem older, and so she's like never really connected with someone her own age until Percy. And I feel like that's what makes them so good. Like the bestie-ship, the partnership at the root of it, the way they challenge each other and make each other better. I love it here. I love it here. But he also, you know, there's the whole thing, I mean, that comes later in the Tunnel of Love with like her talking about like he's different than this, and like this is what I want to be, as opposed to like what I've been trying to be my whole life. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Also, I love, they look so tiny when they peek out from over the little divider thing at Ares. Like,
I love that little bit.
That picture is the like header photo on this podcast's Twitter account. Follow us on Twitter at Demigod Debut Pod. I don't really use Twitter that much. Twitter confuses me. I don't know what to post on Twitter.
Real.
But my header is excellent because it's this moment, because I think it's so cute. And then the that's my cousin. What kind of family is this?
Yeah.
Icon.
Real.
Icon.
That's real.
Yeah. And so then, you know, meet Ares at the diner. Ares shows Gabe on the news. And it, you know, it wasn't until he showed that little clip of Gabe that I was like 100% certain that we were statuing Gabe.
Yeah.
They wouldn't remind us of him if that was not coming.
If he wasn't coming back.
Yeah. Ares is fun because he's scary, but he's also kind of like a Disney-fied scary, you know?
Yeah, he's kind of like a dingbat. I keep saying dingbat.
Yeah, that's a new word.
He's, I need to think of a better name for him.
I want to see like some kind of tier list, like dingbat to not trying to think of a good Aries word.
He's kind of just like a mean booger, you know?
Yeah.
Like but he's like one of the like
lame antagonist.
Yeah, he's like one of the sticky hard ones that you kind of like hurts
He's a pistol.
Ooh, yeah.
Pistol. That Aries is a pistol.
Yeah, yes. Oh my gosh, that Aries. What a pistol. Oh my gosh. Oh. So anyways.
I love
Like,
it. Capricious. He is prone to violence. He is a war criminal. Yeah.
I have to say, this is like the other thing I wrote down here. The little like there's no fear in you, is there, to Annabeth? I don't love this. It like feels, and you're making such a shocked face. I know. Let me explain myself. Okay, so it feels like out of character at this point. At this point, Annabeth has so much respect for the gods and like the way that this world works. And I mean, it's definitely starting to shift a little bit, like based on what happened at the Arch and all that. But I don't feel like she's quite giving this much attitude to Aries levels yet. Like it feels off to me. Like it feels like we're just trying to make her too like sassy and strong right now. When like she absolutely does get there, but it just like didn't feel right for right now. And like her kind of going head to head with Hephaestus later in the episode, I feel like does like illustrates this shift in her more meaningfully than like having her exchange a couple quips with Aries. I I don't know. I don't know. I was just kind of like, huh, no fear in her? Interesting.
I don't know. Because on one hand, I kind of do think that out of all three characters in the show, Annabeth is the only one who has really awareness of what these stakes are. So perhaps that's why she's pushing back against him, because she knows that these stakes are so high and he is trying to derail what little time they have. But also, perhaps in some way, don't you think it was a tactic because she is the only one who like demonstrates that much respect to the gods out of the three of them, and so perhaps by sort of threatening her, you could get her to cow and to act with a little bit more humility and to uh, play into his hands further.
Yeah. And like piggybacking off of that, I also think that like because in the book, Percy is like gets irrationally kind of angry when Aries is around. Like his aura makes Percy like kind of like want to fucking like fight someone, right? Like want to fight someone. And like I think that that's kind of maybe how Aries is like aura manifested in Annabeth was just like her being like really witty and sharp and like maybe not to the right person, but she's still gonna be like a bit quicker and a bit more just like, yeah, and what? Can you tell me what I need so I can go? Thanks.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that is a good point.
That's how I
Fair.
like interpreted that when she, because I for a second I also was kind of like thrown off. I was like, bestie girl, hello. I don't know. I think all three of them like changed around Aries.
I have one more thought. It's so interesting giving as much exposition as they did in the show that they didn't say, "Oh, guys, let's huddle up." Oh man, can you believe the way we feel right now? We're all acting so aggressive and out of character. It must be because of Aries, which like I do appreciate that it didn't happen because some things are better for
That's
showing
true.
and not telling. But at the same time, it's a weird choice to make that not be an element that was like built within the script and verbalized, because if you were a non-book reader, why would you know that?
Yeah, because also sometimes I'm stupid, and if you don't tell me things like directly, I miss them.
Yeah, that's so true.
Okay, yes. I really like the decision to split the group. I think it's good to give us this like Grover moment. And so I feel like we should, because the show kind of flips back and forth between like what's happening at the water park and what's happening with Grover and Aries. And so I feel like we should just talk about Grover and Aries, and then we should talk
A
about
plot, B
what
plot.
happens at the water park. So, Grover, mansplain, manipulate, male wife. I I really love getting to see this because I feel like Grover's kind of greatest strength is his like empathy and his emotion that he has, and I really like getting to see him use this in like a manipulative kind of way, like using like his understanding of emotions to like get the information that he needs. Love, love, like flattering him with all the talk of wars and then being like, oh, and your sister, no notes. I love Grover. But the angle of the camera, like when he's like, oh, when you caught the lightning thief, the way it's like above his head, It does make me giggle a little bit because I'm like, this is a silly kid angle.
Yeah, it is. I do love Ares's kind of unrelated but also related. The how mad he is about Athena's owl, and he how like whatever line where he's like, and I no owl am like very successful.
Are we so sure that she's the genius and I know Owl am
Yeah.
not?
That's pretty good. That made me giggle. I was like, that was funny.
It is. And it's very much like giving siblings. Like I absolutely
It
like
is.
if one of my brothers had an owl, I would be like, who is with that owl? What's his deal?
Yeah. No, if my sister had one, I would make fun of it, but no one else would be allowed to make fun of it. That would be my rule. Like
Yeah.
it'd be like my jokes, okay?
Then I feel like they should lean into that. They should continue. Like when we finally do meet Athena, she should have her owl, and we should reference it again. Okay. The Tunnel of Love. So, first of all, Frederick Chase, when I catch you, you didn't show this child one singular movie.
Shame.
Shame. Shame. Like, I hate that man. I hate that man. The water park is cool. I like their little moment in the turnstiles.
Weren't you the one who said we were just someone is about to die soon? Yeah, that was funny. And
Yeah.
then he's like, she's like, it was a little funny. I love them.
It's good. Like the banter is bantering. The banter is coming,
It is.
and I'm here for it.
It's fun.
And then don't even tell me not to be weird about this when they realize they have to go into the Tunnel of Love. Iconic.
Incredible. Incredible.
The What Is Love playing, so silly goofy. And then for Percy to be like, I think I heard this song at the orthodontist. I was like, how did this joke make me feel so old when this song like literally predates me? Like the song What Is Love is older than I am, but I still was like, oh my god, I'm so old when he was like, I heard this at the orthodontist. I'm like, oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of orthodontist songy. Like it's very like it's like very background in a public place energy to me.
Is it?
I would never seek that song out.
Really? It feels too hype for that.
It would have been playing at like, yeah, Kohl's or Dillard's or some mall franchise. It was definitely played every hour on the hour.
Huh. Maybe I need to like frequent the malls and things that you attend because I'm like, it doesn't feel like background music to me.
Just silly goofy.
I like their little talk in the boat about how Percy's mom was preparing him to be like better when he got to them. And
Yeah.
also the first time we see him use his water powers and it's to save Annabeth. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me.
Did you just use that water power stuff to pull me out? I don't know. I'm figuring this out as I go. I love them. Annabeth's immediate reaction of, did you just pull me out of there with that water power stuff?
Oh my gosh.
I love it here. I love her.
And then, of course, we're trying to sacrifice ourselves for each other again. And we get the first canonical seaweed brain where she's like, this isn't the arch seaweed brain. You're not pushing me into the stairs again. And as much as I love like getting seaweed brain, I kind of miss it starting out as like kind of mean and then evolving into an affectionate nickname.
True.
I think it was still kind of derogatory. Like she's actively trying to save his life, but she's instead of calling him like idiot, it's like this isn't the arch idiot. It's like this isn't the arch seaweed brain. Like she didn't pause, but I think in her brain it was like a what can I call him? Like me earlier in the episode, instead of like swearing my face off, I'm like dingbat.
Exactly. Okay. This is her dingbat.
That's like her dingbat, She's like, go
True.
shiitake mushrooms, She's like saving herself.
Like a heightened state of emotions, and she's feeling
Yeah.
what has this all been for if you're just going to sacrifice yourself right now?
But then Percy telling her that the reason she's there is to like make the hard decisions and how it's the logical choice for him to be the one to have to sit in the throne because she's better than he is. Pain.
Percy, my fatal flaw is loyalty Jackson. Was like, I got it.
He's like, if I can do this, I'm not letting anybody I care about do it instead. And then him giving her Riptide, I'm gonna set myself on fire because
oh, that was powerful.
And then the way that they were looking at each other, like, it is no wonder that everyone at camp was sick of them. Like, everyone at camp was like, okay, Percy and Annabeth are inevitable, but like, they gotta hurry this up because this is ridiculous. Like, if I was around and I would have observed them looking at each other like the way that they do in the second half of the season, I would have been like, okay, we're throwing them in the lake at age 14. Like, we're not waiting.
If I was also like a kid at camp and like my friends were like liked each other but were being stupid, I'd be like, can you please not be stupid? I'm also like one of the most blunt wing women on the planet though. Like if you ever want me to wing woman for you, I'm gonna be blunt. So you've been warned. No,
See, my friend
quite
thinks you're
literally,
hot.
I am so obvious, but I really slay at getting my friends to talk to people. So
Huh. Could never be me, but huh. Honestly, like, okay, you should read my notes for this scene because I just basically like write the quote from the episode and then put like, I'm unwell. This is ridiculous. What if I set myself on fire? There's no coherent thoughts for me here. Like, this scene is just a lot.
no, because I think it like beautifully encapsulates one of the like overarching themes of the season of like differentiating, well, I guess for the season, just like differentiating Percy's values compared to other campers' values and his ability to like look at the Greek mythology world from a third person kind of perspective and like even though he's in it, he's on the outside of it, right? Because he hasn't actually lived in it and he can look at it from his own set of like morals and principles and be like, oh, this is messed up. Like why is this happening? Why are we being treated this way? This doesn't make sense to me. Like we need to hold people accountable, we need to hold the gods accountable. Like, and it just shows that like not only does Percy like do all these things, but like Annabeth has picked up on it and she's like, hey, he's like different and better and I think he's better than me at like certain things and like I have a lot to learn from him and he has a lot to learn from me. Like, please let my friend go. I love them. Your Honor, I love them. Launching myself into the Hudson.
Also, okay, Walker is acting in this scene. Like, when he sits on the throne, the like, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. And like the way you can see like the fear in his eyes. Like,
No,
also,
Bestie, no. Little Bestie said, I am going to use all of my face. Little Bestie was like, watch me use every muscle to show emotion I can. Slay on. Incredible.
but also like, not even 2 days ago, sir, you were like, I don't think that we could ever be friends. And now you've sacrificed yourself for her twice.
Oh my gosh, it was 2 days ago canonically. Oh.
Wasn't it? I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention to like them arguing in the zoo truck, but like it was not it was not long.
That's crazy.
Monday you fell in the river. That's all I remember.
So maybe it was 3 days. I don't know. Or does this take place the same day as the arch?
I think so. It's like that evening.
Yeah.
He's been through it, man.
They really have
Yeah.
been through it. Ugh. Ugh. And then when Annabeth is like trying to get him out of there and is once again kind of offered glory, kind of the same way that Mrs. Dodds on the bus was like, you know, turn him into me and like you'll be able to be the hero of this quest. And then Hephaestus is like, you can go on and everything will be as it was and like you'll get the glory from this. And she's like, no. Twice now she has refused to betray him, and I love it here. I love it here. And you also get to see like the way that Percy's worldview is starting to change hers, and it's good. It's good, and I love it here.
It's so amazing. No, I love this episode. It's so good. It's so good.
Also, Percy was absolutely suffocating under that gold, and you will not convince me otherwise. Like the way that he comes out of it and is like he's immediately gasping, like
What was the plan there, Hephaestus?
No, yeah. Little Bestie was dying.
right. Any other thoughts on Tunnel of Love?
I loved it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't really have any coherent thoughts except for like this whole thing makes me want to start lighting fires, myself being the first one.
Lovely.
Like I was genuinely okay with the change. This was my favorite episode of the season So like
Honestly, I think it's mine too.
I was really okay with the change from the book. I'm glad that we have both versions. Like I love the version in the book, but I also have this version also has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, this version, this episode really definitely a high point in the series. Also, I am a huge Timothy Elmenson fan, and I have been since Psych, and so seeing him as Festus is just so special and sweet. And I just love him. So that was one of my favorite God castings.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. Cool. So, last little bit of the episodes,
Yeah.
they go back to the diner and Aries gives them their ride, whatever. I love the way Grover's like, "Thank you for the emotional abuse and the cheeseburgers." Telling it like it is.
King.
And, you know, throwback to when we had to spend a week being like, oh my God, who does Grover think stole the bolt? Because of the way he's like, oh, I know who stole the bolt.
I knew immediately. Let the record show. I knew immediately.
I mean, there's one correct answer because obviously we know he hasn't arrived at the correct answer, and we've only really named and met one other person who it could be, and so like it makes
Chris Rodriguez. I'm kidding. Sorry. I was being an idiot.
Yeah, no, he like Clarice is like the only valid option. All right, anything else on episode 5?
Nar. Let's get to a casino.
The first, neither of you are that familiar with the musical, right?
Nar.
I watched a whole 45-minute video essay based off of it recently. But that's about it.
Wait, can you send me that?
Yes, I will.
Incredible.
It's amazing.
I love a video essay.
Actually, will you send me the video essay as well?
Yeah, I'll just share it out. Yeah.
Slay.
Well, because okay, literally my first note here on episode 6 is just weirdest dream reprise. Because that's what it is. Like this is the dream from that song. But I think the choice to have Kronos appear as the headmaster who expelled Percy is fun and like really show Percy eavesdropping and all that jazz.
To all of the people out there on the internet who have said, oh, do you think that's really Kronos? This is why media literacy is important. Not to continue to harp on this, but no, babes. I think this is a plot device.
Yeah.
Well, and also anytime someone asks like, "Oh, have they like cast someone to be Kronos yet?" I'm like, "Yes, they have, and it's Charlie Bushnell because when Kronos gets a physical form, his physical form is Luke."
People are gonna be shocked.
Yes, we know who Kronos is going to be.
Do you think they're gonna have the voice actor speak out of Charlie's mouth, or do you think they're going to forego that?
I don't know because in the book isn't it described as like it sounds like a double voice? Like it sounds like
It's like half Luke. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm be interested to see.
Yeah.
I hope they do like an ADR thing and they just like mix two voices together. And like
Yeah.
I want the double voice.
That would be great.
Because that's something that's so hard to like picture in your head because what the if you don't get it, I'll live. But like, because if we get season 5, I'm gonna be like, we got all 5.
Oh my god, if we get season 5, that would be crazy. I always kind of imagined it as like a Batman voice, like a
Oh really? Like a
Percy.
yeah. I'm Bruce Banner. Like very just like horrible.
Hold on, please tell me that you don't think Bruce Banner is Batman.
Oh wait, no, I don't.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Literally, please delete that from everything. I can't.
Keep it.
Bruce Banner. That's Hulk, right?
Ding 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 ding. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't know any DC, obviously. Who's Bruce Willis? No, that's an actor.
You got the first name right?
Yeah, you're halfway there.
You guys, who the fuck is Batman?
Bruce Wayne.
Okay, that was my third guess. Slay.
But sometimes it's Dick Grayson. Sorry, that's extended lore though. You're not ready for that.
Okay, that's fine.
So, Iris message looks so cool. We also get our second seaweed brain, the like toss it seaweed brain. I like this one. And it's interesting that Annabeth specifically calls Chiron's office. And guess who we find poking around? The man himself, Lucas. Yeah. Don't think that we didn't notice you say, how did you know? When Percy said he knows who the lightning thief is instead of who? Sketchy. And Percy saying that Chiron needs to arrest Clarice and find out what she knows. Like, just phrasing it like that is funny.
Can you imagine Chiron doing a citizen's arrest on Clarice?
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you on Olympus, I guess? I don't know.
It's her Lin-Manuel Miranda rights. Oh my god.
We're ending the episode right now, because...
Oh my god.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the only other thing to note in that call is, when did you turn into an old married couple? Like, sir, you don't even know the levels of old married couple that they are going to achieve in the coming years. You don't even know. But what a great way to take the heat off of you. Like, let's make things awkward for these 12-year-olds.
Yeah. And Percy's, not to change the subject, but I'm gonna. Iconic. That's me trying to get out of any situation ever. I'm like,
Yes. And then Annabeth ending the call immediately when Percy starts to tell Luke that they're going to see his father is interesting. Because why does she care that he'll try to talk them out of it? Does she think that he'll be able to talk her out of it? Just interesting. Or maybe she knows, because the time that Percy does bring up his father to his face, like, Luke gets violent in episode 8. Like, he starts attacking Percy, and so it's like she knows that
yeah.
things are gonna get really ugly. I don't know. It's also, okay, the fact that when they release the animals, the titular zebra is like just in the background. Like, you can't call the episode "We Take a Zebra to Vegas" and then barely show the zebra. I wanted Percy to talk to it.
Okay, wait. We found the zebra? The zebra was in the episode. Okay.
Yes, the zebra is there in the background.
Because there was so much discourse online about there's no zebra. Which, I mean, there's a distinct lack of zebra for sure. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time that Percy demonstrates his horse talking capabilities, his horse speak.
And I'm like not mad if we were gonna wait on that until like he meets Blackjack and like making it a little more Pegasus related. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily miss the not talking to the zebra, because it is kind of just a silly, goofy thing in this book. Also, okay, my hot take is that it doesn't really bother me that they know that about the Lotus Casino going into it. Like, I think in the book the Lotus Casino is fun, but ultimately it's more fun and interesting to me in the ways that it comes back later, i.e. like finding out that the D'Angelos were in there for like so long. I don't know, maybe this is because, not to talk about the musical again, but I'm gonna. In the musical, episodes 4, 5, and 6 happen within like one song. Like, it's like little like 3 or 4 line scenes facing the Chimera, and I mean, they don't go to the water park, but then they do like meet Ares in that song. And then 6, the hotel, like they basically meet this girl who is supposed to be Bianca, and she tells them that like, my brother and I just got here yesterday, May 1st, 1939, and it's like, okay, never mind. I feel like the musical is an excellent adaptation of Percy Jackson, so I feel like in thinking that it's kind of taken some of the emphasis on the Lotus Casino like away for me, because I'm like, okay, this thing that I love like doesn't really go there at all, so I don't mind that it like looks different here, and we're here for a different reason.
Yeah, I think the casino adventure has kind of been mythologized by the fan base, whereas like in the book it's really it's no more or less significant than any of the other side journeys they take. So I think it was more fandom putting a lot more stock in it than what needed to necessarily be held.
And I do kind of wonder if that has to do with the movie, because I feel like people have kind of talked up that like poker face movie casino scene, when like it's not the iconic moment that people want to pretend that it is. Like, it's just...
Oh, I disagree. I think it definitely is like an iconic moment in cinema. It's just not an iconic Percy Jackson moment. Does that make sense? Like, like it's definitely like a cinematic moment.
I agree. Like, the music, great. The visuals, great.
It's so fun and goofy, but it is absolutely not like that. I don't watch that scene and I'm like, I love Percy Jackson. These books are my life. I watch that scene and I'm like, slay Lady Gaga, let's dance.
Okay. All right. I'll give you that one.
Exactly. I watch the scene and go, oh my gosh, what a good scene in an otherwise terrible movie. And perhaps because it was the only good scene in an otherwise terrible movie, that's why it's kind of been aggrandized by people. I don't really know. but like, how do you not hear Poker Face and not immediately fall in love?
But I totally agree, Mal, that like it doesn't have to be this like big thing that it is within like the Percy Jackson universe discourse. Like,
Yeah. And levitating, I guess, was a fine song for the casino, but like Poker Face really is an iconic song. But also I love Lady Gaga. We get our first wise girl in this one, and wise girl just in general, books too, doesn't hit for me the same way Seaweed Brain does. This one is also like way too endearing right out of the gate. Like initially there's no love in Wise Girl. Initially, Wise Girl comes from Clarice. Like Clarice is the one who comes up with it, and Clarice uses it more than Percy does in the first, I think in the entire first series. Like honestly. And so
yeah, Percy doesn't use it that much at all in the first series.
yeah. So fun fact for you. Percy calls Annabeth Wise Girl out loud twice in The Lightning Thief, and then does not do it again until the Blood of Olympus.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact. Clarice also calls Annabeth Wise Girl twice, once in The Lightning Thief, once in Sea of Monsters. And that's just a fun fact for you. Percy does kind of say in his narration in one of the short stories in the Demigod Files that he doesn't have a good comeback to Seaweed Brain because like Wise Girl isn't good and like neither is Owlhead. So like I think that's kind of why, because like he recognizes that it's not a good nickname, but I feel like this is kind of a fan servicey thing that Rick started doing in the later books because he does start to call her Wise Girl more. Like he calls her Wise Girl during their like appearance in Magnus Chase and also in the Kane Chronicles crossover short story. And then he also calls her it 3 times in Chalice of the Gods. So
Yeah.
he says it like 8 times in total throughout the entire series. So like it is not as iconic as Seaweed Brain, where Annabeth calls him Seaweed Brain, counting like in her narrations in Mark of Athena 55 times. Like 55 times through all of the books, Annabeth calls him Seaweed Brain. She calls him Seaweed Brain 9 times in Chalice of the Gods alone. And so I did not find all these numbers myself. I did initially get them from Reddit, but I did verify them because I don't want this to be a misinformation podcast. And then I did have to get the Chalice of the Gods numbers myself because these stats were from like 4 years ago. But so just so you know, Wise Girl is said like 8 times, Seaweed Brain is said 55 times. So it's like they're not on the same level. And people
No.
want Percy to have like a little nickname for Annabeth, and like Wise Girl just doesn't hit. It doesn't hit.
It doesn't. He lacks the creativity.
He does. Yeah. Also, the way that Annabeth is like,
Yeah.
let's split up and find Hermes, and Percy's immediately like, no, I don't want to do that. I need a buddy. He's so me because I'm like, oh, I have to go do this thing. Like, someone come with me.
That's real. No, I'm literally just a girl. Like,
I'm just a girl. I like getting the Luke's mom information a little bit earlier. I think that's fun. I like integrating some of that earlier in the story. I think Augustus is an interesting new plot line, and I like kind of giving us more of Grover's motivations and like more about the Pan quest
yeah.
is excellent. I also love when Percy starts telling Annabeth about his dream, and she's like, I don't know. And he's like, well, if you don't know, what chance do I have? Like, he already looks at her as this, like, pinnacle of knowledge. And,
yeah.
I love them so much.
Yeah.
So good. Percy Jackson is a wife guy.
Absolutely. You want to know why? Because Rick Riordan is a wife guy.
Right. True.
Well established.
Also, I think Sydney will appreciate this effort. But when Grover starts forgetting, it is given Way Down Hadestown reprise, specifically the part that's like, I have to go. Go where? Go back. Oh, and where is that? So what was your name again? You've already forgotten. Like the way that he's like, what was I just like? I was doing something. And yeah, just
Yes.
there's always like a part of my brain that's just like thinking about Hadestown. So, you know, then the man, the myth, the legend himself, Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah. I had such doubts. I really and truly did.
So did I. So
silly, goofy. I just thought that he had essentially just walked on set and invited himself into all of this. And okay, I love him. I think the reason why people hate him is because he reflects theater kid cringe back at
for
kids,
sure.
and then go, oh, I don't really like that, because you know what we hate about others, we hate in ourselves. So I think really that's the only thing people don't like about him. I kind of equated to what happened with John Green. Like when John Green was like
Yes.
famous, like in 2014, 2015, when the
Yeah.
Fault in Our Stars movie was coming out, people all of a sudden went from loving him to hating him. And so I just really feel like the world is going to turn back towards Lin-Manuel one day. But I want to say, I was always here.
Yeah. Well, okay, I also had doubts. My doubts are well established in the fact that this casting made me feel unhinged enough to decide to run the New York City Marathon. Like, I fully ran 26 miles about this, and then I saw this man on screen, and I was like, oh, perhaps that was an overreaction, because, like, I really liked him as Hermes.
Can you imagine going back and telling the 2022 version of yourself, hey, you know what? Actually, it's fine.
Yeah, like, but I don't think I would stop her, because this is, I really enjoy the
Yeah,
journey
yeah.
that I have taken myself on.
I mean, fair.
So thank you to Lin-Manuel Miranda for this. What else do I want to say about Hermes? I don't know.
I loved the little I missed it the first time I was watching. This had like nothing really to do with like the acting, but when he like starts pushing Percy and Annabeth and they just like change rooms, I was like I kind of missed that the first time.
Teleport.
I was like, yeah, it was just like a
Mm,
scene cut. No, girl. No.
Yeah, teleport.
that was
Yeah.
pretty great.
Yeah, and then Annabeth telling him, help us do this and Luke will see that you care. Like, are you sure, bestie? Are you sure about that?
Oh, you were so wrong.
Stop trying to make me feel bad for Hermes through this whole, like, do you know what it is to love someone and know that neither of you can do anything but hurt each other, and then, like, showing Percy the car scene and, like, stop. Hermes, I don't feel bad for you. I don't feel bad for you.
You know, I feel like they're trying to make all of the gods kind of sympathetic in this, but you can't do that. That's not right. I will say, my saddest moment of the episode was when there was a lack of George and Martha, because I love George and Martha. So the
True.
Caduceus.
True.
I thought it was, a great fantastical element, but alas, I will just wait for them in the future.
I do love George and Martha.
We need George and Martha.
They're so funny, dude. God. I hope they get like Melissa McCarthy and her husband.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant casting.
That's incredible.
Oh my gosh, I love that. But I mean, that's a really good point. They are so funny that perhaps they were left out of this episode, because this episode also kind of was a tonal shift where
Yeah,
things
this
started
was a
to
serious
get a little
episode.
bit darker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like
Yeah.
Andy Samberg. I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I'm like, give me
Yeah.
Andy Samberg.
Andy Samberg and Chelsea Peretti.
I would love to see Andy Samberg let Andy Samberg play Blackjack. I've seen a lot of like thoughts on the voice of Blackjack. And
Jack
every
Black.
single one of them has been good. Yeah, Jack Black is kind of good.
Yeah, Jack Black is a great choice. That's one I see most frequently, I think.
Yeah.
That'd be so
Yeah.
funny.
Okay, wait. Also, I have a question, because Hermes says that Poseidon is the one who warned him to stay away, because like he was like, "Oh, watching Percy struggle was so hard." But when? When did this happen? Because Luke is like 7 years older than both Percy and Annabeth, and he ran away when he was 9. So when was Poseidon giving this advice? Like, Percy would have been like 2.
Okay, I think perhaps things were just so catastrophic with May Castellan, when she was like, "Oh, no, I can take on the Oracle," that
Yeah.
Hermes like went back to Olympus and went, "Bro, don't do it, bro, it's so bad." Not bothering to like help his child out, but just going, "Nah, it's baby mama drama, don't worry about it."
Well, but that like explains it from Hermes's end, but why is he saying that Poseidon is the one who told him to stay away?
Maybe Poseidon was slightly mad that, you've got this big 3 rule going on, which I know that's not what it's referred to in the TV show. That
Forbidden children or whatever.
right.
Coined it as.
That then he just started telling the other gods, "I can't see my kid, you can't see your kid." I don't know. I can't explain that, but I think it was just a way
Yeah.
to connect everything together. And also perhaps another way to tie Percy and Luke, because I wish I remember like who
Poseidon knows that they're narrative foils.
right,
And
exactly. He's omnipotent, it's fine. But somebody online was talking about how Hermes in this episode is like trying to change the prophecy and is trying to sabotage Percy so that he can save Luke. And I think that's one of the best interpretations of this episode.
I did see that. Yeah. Okay, also Annabeth stealing from Hermes, icon behavior. She's a queen. I do kind of want to know, did Luke teach her how to pickpocket? And then also when Annabeth's like, I'm multi-talented, and Percy's just like, heart eye emoji. And then them forgetting Grover and Grover forgetting them makes me so sad because that's what everyone seems to do. Like, everybody wants to replace Grover as Percy's best friend with like Jason or whoever, and justice for Grover because Grover is the bestie. Like, I have read so many fanfics that like want me to believe that Jason is Percy's best friend, and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. He's not.
That's not okay. First of all, besties. No. Like, just no. In no universe. Absolutely not.
No, exactly. And the car scene might actually be the funniest thing in the show. Like, I think it's hysterical, him trying to drive this car, and then when he gets like cut off and like immediately honks, like that's so New York of him. New Yorkers honk over nothing.
No, but it's like a delayed honk. Like it's a delayed honk, and that's
like the car is fully gone. He's just like,
so
hey.
funny.
Okay, and then also him kind of crashing the car into the wall because he was too busy looking over at Annabeth. It's giving All Too Well. Almost ran the red because you were looking over at me. Anyway.
That scene stresses me out. That part of the scene when they're going up and then they almost get hit by a semi.
Yes, horrible.
It's
horrible.
Also, the fact that he can barely see. I feel like the wheel is up here.
I know,
his
he's
little
so
head
small.
is like barely above the wheel. And I'm like, you are. I am once again confronted with the fact that these are children.
And then this is where we get the missed deadline and the 4 pearls. And like, I kind of understand these changes now, but for a little while I was like, what? We have lost the plot completely. I was like, where is this going? And then all these people who had screeners were like online being like, no, it makes sense. Like, stay with it. Which I was like, I have faith that it's gonna make sense, but also right now I'm kind of like, what?
No, yeah, because I remember when that episode was like released, and then everyone was like, all me and my Percy Jackson friends were like, the plot's, it's gone. It's bye. It was super fun. You were really fun while we had you. Safe travels. Gone. But then we got it back and it was fine. But I was freaking out.
Because I'm like good with changes. Like, I don't mind that we changed the entire Tunnel of Love, but if it feels like we're making changes just to make changes, I'm like, whoa. And these kind of initially felt like we're just making changes to make changes.
I agree.
So, final thoughts on these 2 episodes.
My last thought is that the high point of the series was then followed by the low point of the series for me. So I just think it's really interesting that we've paired 5 and 6 together. And not that 6 wasn't good. It totally is dependent on that huge plot change for me, which even after watching all of it, I don't really understand why they did it like that. It didn't even like make a whole lot of sense within the narrative to just remove all the stakes. But hey, I like where it ended, so I guess it's fine in the end.
Yeah. 5 is my favorite, and I love her dearly.
5. So I go back and forth whether 5 or 8 is my favorite, but they're like both up there. And then I also go back and forth whether 6 is my least favorite, but that's a thought for another day because I have some thoughts on 7, which we will get into with both of you next time. Very exciting to have both of you back. In a couple of minutes for us, but a week later for in terms of podcast release schedule. So yeah, this has been episodes 5 and 6, and see you both next week. Hey, thanks for listening. If you want more unhinged content from me, you can find me running the podcast socials, posting memes and fun little things on Instagram, the social media formerly known as Twitter and now TikTok at DemigodDebutPod. Catch you later. Bye!